Consider This with Carol Schrader is made possible with support from Allegiant Health, Bass and Associates, and Nebraskans for Public Television. Consider This with Carol Schrader, a news and information program recorded on the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. From the Fireside Lounge in the Milo Bale Student Center, here is your host, Carol Schrader.
Hello and welcome once again to UNO. Consider this. When you mail your blue envelope in to pay for your dog and cat licenses in Douglas County, well, there's a lot more than just paying some money in and you feel you get no service out of it. With me today are some people that I've wanted to talk to for a long time. I want to welcome Judy Varner. She's the new Executive Director of the Nebraska Humane Society here in Douglas County. Also with us is the Humane Society's Director of Operations, Dave Carbaugh, and Pam Carter, who is Director of Education. She has a familiar face, having done a lot of, as we say, acting gigs and teaching young budding actors and actresses, and now she's teaching in a whole new way, and we'll get to that. Judy, you're brand new. You come in town, you blow into town, and you get an option on a building. You're going to move to the new Festival Foods, or the old Festival Food store off 90th and Fort. And so things are really moving under your leadership. And but we get a lot of calls to the station. Why are they spending all this money? How many million do you need?
But the whole campaign's 11.5. The building is 10, and then $1.5 million for an endowment fund.
I say, spend all this money on dogs and cats, much as we love them?
Well, I think that there are a couple of issues. One is a community has to have an animal control program. Detroit and Houston have had terrible problems with packs of dogs because they don't have enough animal control. So we have to have an animal control program. It's a public health issue. So we have to do that. That means we have to have a facility to house stray and dangerous animals. Our facility is, the roof is leaking as we speak. This snow and the warm weather has us scared to death. We don't have enough room. We have twice the number of animals that were housed when we first moved into the building. So we have to move to another building. Our board has spent a long time looking at what we should do, where we should go, and the most effective, cost-effective way to have a new building was to move into an existing building, and that's what we're doing.
Now anybody chime in. Don't wait to be called on. This isn't a classroom. The issue of, I mean, I've been seeing animal control specialists out on the streets. I lived up north where there were a lot of raccoons. We often had to, we had one that was either drunk or had rabies or something up in a tree.
The raccoon, right?
Yeah.
I hope.
And I laughed, but it was very, you know, we were very concerned. The children were very concerned. It was a real excellent education for them on how to handle a situation, not go near. But you know, I think people think this very isolated, that an animal would be a threat to me, or you know, a stray dog. Hey, I'm not going to call the pet cops.
We handle about $1,000 bite cases a year.
Bite? That's just bites.
That bites.
That's just
bite
not
cases.
Animal bodies. That,
no, that's
you know.
Bite cases. We handle over 19,000 animals. Last year we had over 43,000 requests for animal control services. So that's animal control services. That's strays, bites, bat in my bedroom, raccoon in my tree, all of those services. And the fees that we generate from the license sales go to pay for basic animal control services. They aren't paying for the construction at all. They're not paying for our humane education. They're not paying for our second chance program. They're not paying for anything except basic animal control services.
All right, so you, let's say the animal is still alive when it's captured, and it comes into what they call the shelter. I guess it's more than a shelter. It's a place to house and watch and deal with the animals. I mean, there's all kinds of things going on there, prolonging the life of an animal, not prolonging, watching the animal for signs of disease. It's a busy place.
Yeah, there's a lot of animals that come in that need more help than an average homeowner could provide for an animal. Injured animals that have been hit by cars. We see a lot of hit by car animals. We also see pit bull fighting in the city, so we get animals that come into us that have been torn up in fights and need a lot of medical attention.
I would imagine there are a lot of people that would say, well, obviously these are animals that they should just be put to sleep. And you know, then that would save money, and then the animal is injured and put them out of their misery. You can't put every animal to sleep. I
Well-
mean, I suppose you could.
But I think the question you need to turn around and ask is, I have 3 dogs. If one of my dogs was hit by a car and taken to the shelter, I wouldn't want it automatically euthanized. I would want it stabilized. I would want it pain-free. And then I would want to have the right to get my animal back and get them fixed, get them put back together.
Get them to your vet
Sure.
or whatever.
Sure. We don't have we have a vet that just handles our animals, the animals in the shelter. We do not provide medical care for those outside the shelter. But I think that it's very important that we do that we stabilize the animals. We also work a lot with the vets in the community so that our officers can go right to a veterinary hospital to get medical care for an animal that's been injured.
Do you, when they come in, do you have to, I suppose it's like an ER in a sense,
Yeah.
or sometimes it's not if they're just strays, but I mean, you have to check them in. I know they don't have an insurance card, so. I mean,
Well,
give
we
me
do
kind
check
of-
them for ID. We scan for a microchip, and if they have an owner, then we try to do our best to contact the owner so they can get down there as soon as possible, especially if the animal's injured, so they can get them to their own veterinarian where they know the history of the animal, any problems that the animal might have previous. If they don't, too many animals come in without any identification at all, and then we have to assess the situation and see what we can do to stabilize them.
Are you full most of the time?
Yeah.
And how many animals? I mean, I suppose it depends on dog, cat, size of dog, cat. I don't know.
About 250 animals we can hold.
And is it pretty full
Yeah.
most of the time?
Yeah.
If you walk down our halls, it's full. It's full. The new building will house 500.
I can't.
And you see, as Omaha
imagine.
grows, then we know that it's going to just burden our systems even more as annexation takes place. Every time an area is annexed, that's more animals we have to care for.
The thing that was in the news not too long ago was the incident with the woman with all the cats. And how many?
90, 89,
80.
5 of which were pregnant, so they,
And they were in, and most of them were not in good condition.
yeah.
My Lord, you must have to call all hands on deck, and then
It's been a
some.
real strain on the staff.
And that's just one incident.
Yes.
Granted, a very unusual one.
That was probably the biggest group that we've brought in the history of the organization, those cats.
Is there still a dumping of like kitty litters and puppy litters? And I mean, I thought that was sort of out. People just didn't.
Oh, no.
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 I think I thought that too for a while, and then I saw someone, one of the vet techs came in and someone had dropped by the side of a road, brand new puppies. They hadn't even been weaned, their eyes weren't open yet, they were still deaf and they couldn't hear. But amazingly, and what I found at the shelter, about 6 vet techs took them home and foster cared them for a while until they, and did everything a mother would do for the first 6
Well, they need a
weeks.
lot of hand
Right,
feeding.
but that
and
happens.
touching.
I was quite surprised. I'm the newest to the organization, and I was quite surprised. It does sound like something from an old 50s book, doesn't it? We're going to drop them at the side of the country road. Happens all the time. Or the dogs that have obviously just been dumped, and someone's forgotten about, and they find them down by the river. They had a collar on, but they're so starved that the collar is hanging loose on them, and someone just let them go.
You know,
amazing.
it's been. I grew up here, and I've had to go down to the Humane Society and get my kitty out of jail, and fortunately, because they were licensed, it wasn't, a problem. But I don't see a lot of stray animals. You mentioned Houston, and so I guess we kind of take for granted the fact that Douglas County has done a pretty good job of taking care of its responsibility.
Well, we are not Douglas County. We are the city of Omaha and 3 miles outside the city limits.
The old planning zone area,
Right,
as they
exactly.
say.
So we are not Douglas County.
So you have, through city ordinance,
Right. We deal with city
The
ordinance, and we
jurisdiction.
can also enforce state law.
but you must have been doing a good job, and historically your predecessors, with what money they had or what in the license money. But you mentioned certain things aren't covered by the licenses. The education.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's very true.
Well, where does that come from?
We raise money, donors. It's very important that people understand we are not a city agency. We're a private nonprofit. We're a 501c3 with a contract with the city. So Pam's Humane Education programs, we're doing a lot of work with the elderly and their animals. We deliver free meals, animal meals. Work with Area Agency on Aging to identify seniors that need to have free animal food brought into their pets. They can keep their pets. We do a tremendous number of programs to try to keep pets in their homes. We have a behavior helpline. We have training programs. All of our dogs in our adoption kennel are trained every day. We work with youth extensively. In our new building, we're going to be having lock-ins where the children come and stay all night with Pam.
Oh,
They
Pam's looking
have
forward to
day
that.
camps and all kinds of programs that are going to teach compassion, not just how to brush your dog and feed your cat, but how to have compassion for all living creatures.
I want to talk about that in just a minute. But Dave, I know that you work a lot with area vets because I know that well, it's actually my son's, but I'm the legal owner of Sparkles, who was a stray, a runner, just on the run, and got picked up by an animal control person, came in with deemed to be a healthy, adoptable dog. One of the vets came in and did the spaying, and I mean, it must take a lot of organization. You must be a darn good manager, if not just a compassionate person to coordinate. I mean, I suppose most of the animals that come in that don't have a home already need to be spayed or neutered, and you won't let one out the door.
Yeah, 2
for
pounds
adoption.
we're doing spay and neutering now at 2 pounds. Any kitten or puppy over 2 pounds, we spay and neuter in-house now, so they're not being out on the streets reproducing.
And you gave me a statistic before we taped that just blew me away. I'm thinking, okay, the average American household is what, 3.74 people or something, and maybe they have on average across the country 1 pet. So that would make, I mean, I don't know what the math is, but I would say, you know, 1 animal, domestic type animal running around this country, hopefully cared for every 3 to 4 people. Not true.
7 dogs or cats are born for every human born. Pet overpopulation is a terrible problem. It's a real problem.
You know, I still can't fathom people when I say, you know, you really ought to get that dog neutered.
Oh,
No.
there is-
No. You know, if my masculinity is tied to that dog or that dog's masculinity, I
amazing.
don't. I mean, this is.
We've gotten some complaints because we doubled our license fees for animals that are not altered. And we are bringing ourselves in line with other cities.
Well, they just won't license.
70%, well, and we're going to be contacting them. We're serious about this. It's the law to license your pet. It's the law.
What do you do for? I know that pets are an incredibly important part of the life of some of our senior citizens.
Absolutely.
Who may not be able to afford that. You said you help them with food, maybe if they can
call,
license.
we've not had a lot of calls along those lines, and typically they can find them. Most seniors have altered animals, and those fees have not gone up.
And they do tend to license because they tend to
Sure.
be very law-abiding.
And those fees have not gone up. So if their animals are spayed or neutered, their fees have stayed the same. Because those people really need to be rewarded for being responsible pet owners. There's no reason for a pet not to be altered. There's no reason. It's better health, better pet, better behavior.
Oh, I've had them before and after, and then they do settle in quite
They do
well.
settle, yeah.
Just as astonished as I am about the sheer numbers, the overpopulation, the numbers that you handle every year. Many years ago, when I started taking care of foster children, I became absolutely startled by the connection between animal cruelty in children and later problems with cruelty to people in some form or another. And people just don't get that that's an incredibly, it doesn't always mean something will happen, but it's one of almost the surest precursors, isn't it, Pam?
It's called The Link, and we're working on that right now. We're going to be having Randall Lockwood from the Humane Society of the United States is coming in in March. There is a link between animal abuse and violence to humans. And we're trying to get all organizations to see that now, and even to be reporting to each other. We're hoping that that people become much more aware of that issue, that if the little boy comes into school and says, "Daddy killed my cat," that the teacher needs to be aware that there's probably abuse going on at home also. That the father's used that as a threat. Or if we see that there's abuse going on in the home with the family, there's probably abuse going on also with animals. It gets just from where I come from and getting into the classrooms, it is frightening because I'll see these wonderful children and all the children that I'm teaching, it's great. And you can see that it's not, empathy and compassion is not being taught at home. They're being told it's just a cat or it's just a dog. Or they're acting out the abuse that's being done to them, that's what they're going to be doing to an animal. And that's when we need to get in, and the child needs help. We need to make sure that the child is seeing someone and we find out what else is going on and to bring it all together. But there's a huge link that's going on between that.
Is the community aware of that, or is that something you're trying? I mean, you go into the schools, and it's good to get the kids, but I don't know if all adults are.
We're
aware of
working on that. Our current campaign for membership addresses that, kind of ties the animal
Violence
I've
is
heard the
violence.
radio ad, which is
Yeah.
what is it? You hit
Slap your wife, go to counseling.
Abuse your child.
Abuse your child, go to
Go to
jail.
jail. Beat your cat. Take the family out for pizza.
I heard the one about
Or
your
get-
dog get a
get a
manicure.
And that's what we're trying to address. Violence is violence. And if people are violent to animals, it's going to escalate. All of the mass murders, all the kids that shot up the schools, all of those kids abused animals.
Well, Jeffrey
Documented.
Dahmer is the one that
He's
stands
the-
out to me.
He's
is
the model.
In his father's book, he talked about specifically the experiments that his son had done in the basement.
Right.
And he was in total denial.
Right.
The gentleman that walked into the Capitol building about a year or so ago and shot
Right.
the 2 guards, and his parents were on camera and saying he was wonderful and he was never a problem. He was a great, well, except for the 6 cats that he killed. And to them, even you could see, was that a problem? You know, and it's a denial, and that's something that we have to address. If the parent doesn't see it as being a problem and says it's just a dog or a cat, what do we need? You know. It's a cycle, and it's just a value of all life. It's the web of life, and we need to have respect for all of it, and that's what we're trying to teach the kids.
Now you've become more visible in the community with your announcement. I mean, you've got your little vans running around, and you know, my son made me call in every raccoon on the highway. I would always say, but you know, it's not a real big deal right at the moment. But you know, which I mean, showed his compassion, which made me feel
Which
good.
is good. Yeah.
But you're very visible with the campaign to acquire and refurbish the building, and then these ads that you're doing. What is the ideal situation that where you want to be? I mean, I don't know you very well, Dave, but I know Pam never stops till she reaches her goal, and I'm getting the feeling that Judy doesn't. What is the balance between? I mean, Humane Society isn't the most important charity in the city. I don't know what is, but I'm sure a lot of people feel, well, it's not the biggest. You know, it's not the most important. But make your pitch. I mean, where does it fit in the scheme of
I think
things?
that's something I think about a lot too. I don't think we would ever say to somebody, only give your money to the Humane Society. Well, actually, I probably would say that to somebody, give us all your money.
or put us down first.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think it's part of a balanced society. We know that 75% of the people that have school-age children have companion animals, and they probably have more than one. We estimate there are 120,000 companion animals in Omaha,
How many are licensed?
about 66,000, which is higher than a lot of cities. Not high enough, but higher than a lot of cities. So where does this fit in the scheme of things? I don't know. I think everybody has to balance that out for themselves. But I think animals are a very important part of our society, and what we're seeing are numbers of animals are increasing. And I think it's all part of this cocooning. People are withdrawing. They're in their house more. They aren't out as much. And they're looking for companionship and love and affection, and they're getting it from animals. So we're seeing animals as becoming a bigger part of our society. And therefore, they bring the problems that they can have. So I think for animal lovers, this is a great opportunity. And one of the fun things we're doing in our new building is it's going to provide animal lovers the opportunity to name bricks, tiles, rooms after their animals. So you can have bricks or rooms.
Sparkle brick, a boomer
sparkle
brick,
brick.
a
Actually,
Calian
I
brick.
think the Sparkle Humane Center. That's $6 million.
If I had it-
Humane Center, we would take it over 3 years. For you.
That's nice. I could work out a budget plan. The thing that strikes me is that we have one boy at home, and so we adopted him when he was 7, and he's an only child, and I cannot tell you what a difference that dog has made. He came from a larger family originally. He had a foster family that was a lot larger, and I think he felt very alone, and the only one that ever got in trouble, the only one that ever had time out. We got Sparkles, and I mean, this animal is incredibly important in our house, and I think that people forget that, or maybe they know it. They know.
Well, it's one of the things that I include in the education process, and if I go into, let's say that there are children at risk, and we'll talk about their pets, and I'll remind them, I said, does that person care, or does that animal care if you're smart, what color you are, how big you are, how small you are. Do you ever, who goes and just sits and talks? And very often, especially in preteen, in those angst-ridden years, the hormones are flaring, that's the one person that will just sit there and listen to everything they have to say and won't pass judgment and won't tell them that they didn't do well in school or they're not popular, and will just sit there and it's like, I love you no matter what you do. And to just sort of instill that and remind them that that thing is there. And so how do you think that animal should be treated, and how do you want to be treated? It's so amazing how important these animals are in so many areas, how important they are to the elderly. We're also working on a program where we're trying to get long-term pets into
Nursing homes.
Nursing homes, thank you. Where this is the animal that lives there, and that person that sits there and no one comes to visit all day long. And it's that big head that comes up on a lap and just looks at you. That unconditional love that creature will give you. And we need to show them the same respect that we would ask them to give to us.
There are two organizations in the country, the Lathrop Foundation and the Delta Society, that do nothing but study the relationship between humans and animals. And it's amazing the statistics that they've come out with. For example, for a 10-year-old boy, having a dog is the only socially acceptable way to learn nurturing skills. So it's very important. People blow off animals, but it's a very important step in children's lives to learn how to care for and love and take care of animals and the elderly. For all of us, we all need somebody that loves us.
As for the animals themselves, Dave, when they get in the shelter and you get them in various sort of shapes and in terms of how they physically are, and then there's the real shapes and sizes. Do you have volunteers that come in and help? Because I would imagine you can't handle everything, especially when you have an influx.
Especially with the Persian cats, we couldn't have done what we did without the support that we got from the community. We had volunteers. We had a volunteer orientation. I think it was the second or third night they were there. I think 60 people showed up wanting to help out with the cats, and we had people that were taking off entire days of work and coming in, grooming the cats, and a lot of people spending Saturdays and Sundays 10, 12 hours a day just spending time with the other animals and the cats. But we get a lot of volunteers that come in and help do adoption counseling. Kathleen Ingalls now doing a behavior training on the animals that are in adoption. And the volunteers come in, and she trains the volunteers how to train the animals. So when they go into a home, they've got to start on what's socially acceptable. They get a T-touch massage every day, the animals. Kathleen,
They need to be touched. They need to be
And that's the
talked
reason
to.
we do that, because they're touched, it helps them relax, and if they're relaxed, they're quieter. So it's kind of a marketing tool to get them to relax.
You told me, Judy, that it is unusual to have a situation as we have in Omaha where the animal control aspect, which is usually legislated and required, and for good reason, is tied into the education, the humane training, and other things.
We're very
are we blessed or not?
Extremely blessed, extremely blessed. I think the only downfall is that people think we're a government agency and don't think they need to contribute money. And they do. If we can help people understand that we are not a government agency, we rely heavily on donations, then it would be a perfect world. Because we can provide the Humane Society sort of care for the animals while also enforcing the laws.
How much, you said the licensing covers the animal control part. Does it completely cover it? What's your licensing right now? Your licensing rate?
The licensing and the impound fees, and then the city allocates $250,000 a year. So all of that together comes up to about $1 million, and that is what pays for the animal control services.
Do you, we hear from time to time, and we interviewed you on the radio station I work for about the issue of puppy mills, and I imagine that you don't find them in Metro Omaha.
In court, the prosecutor equated the cat situation, the Persian cat situation, with a puppy mill. I hunch there may be some. I don't know, not that we're aware of.
But this is not something you necessarily touch, but you know it's
we would
around.
touch if we know it's in our area.
And you could enforce that.
Right.
What about other humane? Because you are blessed, and because you've been in an established organization so long, and you have sort of a big city feel to this to draw on for your financial support and just the volunteers. That puts you in, I think, the catbird seat in terms of some of the other humane societies in the state who for having visited them, don't have what you consider necessities, but they would consider luxuries.
I think every municipality and every humane society is different. We've been really blessed by the support of the community. We have a great board of trustees. We have Friends Forever, which is our fundraising arm, a great group of women. But we also work with other humane societies. There's a piece of legislation that the hearing is going to be Tuesday that would allow humane societies a little more flexibility in euthanasia. And we are more than willing to train any humane society, anyone that wants to come to us to receive training in euthanasia or any other aspect of what we're trying to do. We're more than willing to work with them and share whatever information we have. Our whole movement is very open and free about sharing information. It's very heartwarming.
How many animals do you put away a year?
Well, that's a hard question to answer because so many of them come in condition that we can't save after the 3 days. We stabilize them, we maintain them, and then they just can't be saved. We also get 3 or 4 or 5 every couple of days that come in that their owners are asking they be put to sleep because they're sick or they're old. So we probably euthanize 8,000 to 9,000 a year. I think the key question is how many do we euthanize because we don't have enough room to house them, and that's about 1,200.
Oh,
We need a new building.
Yeah,
We need a new
I think
building.
that you don't even have to add all the other reasons, perhaps,
Yeah.
that you need to do that. I remember my husband a couple of weeks ago sitting in front of, I don't know if it was a Learning Channel or what, 3 shows in a row. A pet emergency center in Philadelphia with the university, dogs that can sniff out diseases, and one was just about dogs. And it just brought home the fact that no matter whether you have a companion animal or not, we have a love affair, and probably for good reason. You said they're studying it. What do you think they'll find when they get done with all this studying about the relationship between?
I think it's integral. I think to be balanced, you need that. You look at all of that, the animals on ads, the animals in the movies, everywhere there are animals.
Well, there's studies being done. They don't know how many senses an animal have. They know it's more than 5. Like, as you say, the ones that can tell someone before they're going to have a seizure, and they know it before the human feels it. How does the dog know that? They have a beagle that can sniff out termites in houses. You can go right specifically to it, so you don't have to drill under the whole house. The animals that they used at the in Oklahoma for the bombing to find the bodies, they found that if the animals didn't had a day where they didn't find any live bodies, they found it the animals didn't want to, the dogs didn't want to go back to do it the next day. They had to stage a live saving
To make
for
them feel like they had accomplished
I mean, and it
something.
wasn't, that goes beyond just the quote-unquote dumb animal. There's something else there. I don't know that we'll ever know everything that they know about us. And that's the amazing thing. I'm not trying to,
Well, we've
anthropomorphize,
run out of
but-
time, I know that, and I want to encourage everyone to fill out their blue envelope. I want to thank you for joining us. Remember the Nebraska Humane Society this month, next month, entire year.
When are you going to ride with?
Consider This with Carol Schrader is made possible with support from Allegiant Health and Bass & Associates.